whisper into my ears, Rick. So, this is an ASMR podcast now.
Yep. You do have a sexy voice, Dave, I must say. It's great.
I have a sexy everything.
Welcome to GCP Life, episode number 37 for the 7th of April 2023. GCP Life is sponsored by Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I'm your host, Stephen Bancroft. On today's show, more layoffs in the Aussie IT sector. You thought the Optus and Medibank hacks were big? Wait till you hear about Latitude. And are we doomed? The AIs are teaching themselves now. We bring you up to date on all the latest with the AI wars. But before we get to any of that, I want to introduce the co-host of the show, Dave Wall. How you going, Dave?
I've been replaced with Dave GPT now, and look forward to embracing our robot podcasting overlords.
And a special guest from our internal security domain to discuss all things security. It's Rick Elsum. How you going, Rick?
Hey, Dave. Hey, Steve. Yeah, it's been a massive week in security, I can tell you right now. And even someone who's in the domain, I can't even keep up right now.
Can't keep up with it. I know. It's crazy. All right. Well, it's been a busy week. I tell you what have you guys been up to? I mean, tech adventures and bits and pieces.
All right. Well, so, we touched on so I went and did a bit of field research, right? So last podcast I mentioned about an AI-generated beer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
It was okay.
Okay. You got the AI-generated
I went and
beer.
had the AI-generated beer. I went and had it on the tap. I was like, this is fine.
So what was the problem? Was it too many hops?
Not enough hops. I like a very flowery ale for myself, but it was fine. Maybe you need to wait for GPT 5 to see if it'll pass the beer Turing test for me.
Yeah. I got access to Bard. A little bit sneaky the way I got access to it. VPN there and got access to it. I don't know. We'll talk about it a bit later in AI Wars, but don't worry, you're not missing out on anything. That's my opinion of it at the moment. What about yourself, Rick?
I think the last time I spoke to you guys, I was talking about needing to do a security audit at my home network.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys thought I might have been joking, but I wasn't.
Pen testing your own.
So I did all of that. And recently, because I've been using my home PC and stuff for work stuff and that, I thought it was time to sandbox a lot of the stuff. And you guys actually inspired me. So what I've done is I've set up VMware, and I've got VMware Workstation, and absolutely loving it because I can set up different sort of scenarios network wise. I can set up multiple VMs. I can keep my work stuff separate, and also set up a bit of like a pen test sort of setup and everything as well.
It's definitely good practice, and having that level of compartmentalization, especially if you are mixing the two. I mean, we touched on, I can't remember, was it last fortnight or the one before where we talked about the LastPass hack, and that was just a DevOps engineer on his home machine where Plex got breached, right?
Yep, correct. Yep. So these are the sort of things I've been concerned about, because of recent stuff, and so I thought that's it, time to isolate everything and protect my network.
Even if you're not massively concerned about who's going to steal something of mine, I'm not like a big target. But how much would it suck to have like that phone call where your PC was breached and you took the company down?
100%. Yeah, I definitely don't want that phone call, and I definitely don't want to make national news either.
No, you want to be the guy.
On top of that, so the other thing is too, because I'm using my home PC, basically my gaming PC. I don't really have time for games anymore, so I am in the market for like a rack-mounted sort of like Dell sort of server that can handle ESXi. I haven't told the partner yet because I don't think she realises how.
Let's wait for the power bill.
Well, there's the power bill. Plus they're quite noisy.
Yeah, so you don't need to go for a full 1RU pizza box, right? You don't actually really need that. You can do it I know a load of people who do them just on NUCs.
Yeah, that's right.
You only need to have small things.
And if you the pro hack is, so with the 1RU servers, they typically have high RPM fans because they've got a smaller space to push. They've got to push the same amount of air through, and they tend to be really noisy. They're like little mini jets.
Yep.
So if you go for like 3RU, sort of the bigger form factor ones, they'll be much quieter.
I think
you can get modded fans and modded firmware as well for some of the older boxes.
Yeah.
That'll
Another one. If you go down the road of like buying like XDC gear, almost all of them will be, they'll have their power settings set to high performance because they're in a DC. They don't particularly care about their power costs. It's usually like included in the racks. Usually you don't need that, right? You don't need a dual socket system pulling 600 watts all the time. So like I've did one at my father's place and ended up dropping it down to about 60 watts by lowering it down to the very lowest performance setting because it only kind of just needed to be keeping the lights on. It didn't need to be actually churning.
That's right.
I guess the main requirements for me was making sure that it's compatible with the ESXi, which I think has that sort of CPU requirements.
Yeah, you really can. Like you can do nested virtualization within VMware Workstation. You can just build ESX hosts in there, and you can really layer it on if you need to.
All right. Yeah. Speaking about hacks, did we see the LTT hack during the week?
I know. How could you miss it?
Yeah, I know. That was exactly what happened. Right. One of their content creators' machines got compromised. It had access to their YouTube content management system, and had full access to their channel.
Yeah, replaced it with like crypto scams.
Yep. Crypto scams, of all the things.
Yeah, this was quite interesting, and purely by the fact that it was like a kind of like a session cookie sort of situation.
That's right.
And full credit to Linus for doing a really good like retro, I guess. Owning his stuff in this and admitting also his fault, and also just highlighting of things how they can improve in the future.
Yeah, and maybe wearing clothes next time he has to get up at 2:00 in the morning. To fix a P1. Pro tip for any support people out there: put clothes on when you're working on P1s. What else happened? Oh, TikTok banned Australian government devices.
Yeah, seems like this is inevitable movement there.
Yeah. Yep. How long before it's got a carte blanche banned? I think by the end of the year we'll see it gone.
Well, considering the way that we always follow America, probably. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, I definitely see there's definitely issues with TikTok, and personally, I think the world could probably be better without it. But it's also sets a precedent for, okay, if they're going to ban this, what else are they going to ban?
Yeah, it is the start of a slippery slope, really, isn't it? But it's been a problem for a while. I mean, it's not the first Chinese company that's run into problems like this with governments and information leaking into China.
For sure. I mean, even you remember like the Huawei bans, not being able to be involved in any of the 5G networking stuff. I've seen huge concerns around the security camera company, Hikvision. That was a big one. Yep. They're not allowed to be used in any, government facilities, which I know they've been a very popular solution because they were very reasonably priced cameras. Like I know quite a few people who've deployed them as their own home security system. So, it's not the only ones.
I think my issue is that the very thing that we're criticising China for with the censorship and everything like that, now we're actually doing, I think, is my concern. But
it's a whole nother conversation. We won't go down that slippery slope now, but I think it is a little bit different. It's certainly not as strong a control, but it could be the thin edge of the wedge, but pretty unlikely. But just quickly before we move on with the community news, we also had this thing with 3CX. The supply chain hack,
Yeah, that was interesting to me because it first came up on my radar because I tend to like troll the like the MSP subreddits and stuff, and people were saying, we're starting to see, we're seeing faulty blacklisting and quarantining of these these components of the 3CX app, and lo and behold, no, it was an actual legitimate breach.
It was the client, the client, wasn't it? 3CX client?
It was, yeah. So it was an upstream, I guess, an open source package that they were using.
FFmpeg.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, it was ffmpeg.dll. It had been there. The version of it in their library had in their client had been compromised.
Gotcha. I didn't realize that was the specific part. So, made it all the way through, and then because it was auto updating on all these machines.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one's pretty different too, because generally, like, most of the problems has been because people haven't upgraded their software. But in this case, if you upgrade your software now, you're in trouble.
Yeah, screwed. Yeah, yeah. I jumped straight onto the 3CX site and had a look, and it took them a while to put something up about it. Actually,
yeah, it did. Yep. Yeah, it was quite a few days. In fact, the exploit itself looked like it had been in the wild for like a couple of weeks before things really kicked off. So it was definitely spreading, and not a good look there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how that goes. We'll see what the fallout is from that, and if people continue to use 3CX. I did play around with that a few years ago, but no, I haven't sort of gone down that rabbit hole.
Not in the PABX world anymore.
No. I thought, we can all have our own numbers. We can call each other, and it's like,
like, why am I doing this to myself?
Why am I doing exactly? It's not like running your own mail server. Why the hell would you do that?
Yeah. I think I was going to say, like, it is another benefit of going down that assured open source route. Actually using
correct.
inspected repos.
Would have all been scanned and inspected. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, one of the biggest things with like, we're all pretty much vulnerable this day and age, but it's all really comes down to, okay, how do you respond to this, and how quickly can you respond to this? I think that's why people kind of lose confidence. Is more not necessarily the hack itself, but how people actually respond to it.
Yep. And we'll get on to that a little bit later when you tell us all about these hacks, Rick. But I think for now it's enough banter. Let's talk about the community news. All right, last week I went to GDG at the Google headquarters here in Sydney, and got to see Adish talk about something to do with something data.
Wow. Clearly had an impact on you. Sorry, poor Adish.
Look, you can go and find our LinkedIn post on that. You'll find that, Lisa. It was a great talk, and we got to catch up. Good turnout. Now, that was going to be at the Mantle head office, but in Sydney, but we ended up moving to Google because the attendance sort of blew out. And it was great. Google put on some drinks and some pizza, and it was quite good hangout. It was actually good to be in person for once rather than just hanging out, working remotely in my studio and talking to you guys.
Coming out of your lair.
Coming out of my lair, that's right. Yeah, so that was a good event, and we've got a similar event coming up this 12th of April. That'll be the Wednesday, 12th of April. Ian Brown,
friend of the pod.
Ian Brown hour. He's talking about GKE Magic at GDD, which we held in the Sydney Mantle office once again. As far as I know, it hasn't been moved. So if you're in Sydney and you're interested in GKE, then come along to that GDG event
and check out the powerful Ian Brown.
Check out the powerful Ian Brown. I will post a link in the show notes. Other than that, that's all I've got for community news. Let's get on with the news items. All right, so the big news items this week are all around security. And this is why we brought Rick in. And, of course, the big news was the Latitude financial hack. What can you tell us about Latitude, Rick? Where are we at with it?
Yeah, so this one now has beaten Medibank's record. It's now become the biggest hack in Australia.
Wow.
Same sort of deal. It wasn't as bad as it seemed, and after they realised,
it's worse.
It's worse. They basically just first noticed that there was some strange things happening onto the network, and by the time they realised that it was worse than what it was already too late. So, yeah, we're looking like 14 million records up to now, and the same sort of deal: driver's licenses, all your personal information. The only thing I can say that may be not as bad as the Medibank is the fact that this one's no health data. But it came down to the same sort of situation. One single user with probably too much access has been compromised.
Right, phishing attack, we think.
Possibly, yeah. Basically, they got one person's access and then gone up the chain until they got everything.
Yep, island hopped up the chain until they got to it. Yep,
correct. Yep. So that's Latitude. There's there's just been so many.
What else? What else we got? We've got Crown.
Yeah, Crown. There was Crown.
So what happened to Crown?
So Crown, it was just more of there was a bit of a data breach, and they did obtain some company files, but nowhere near to the sort of scale of Latitude. And there was actually ransomware that they basically tried to lock people down in. I'm not too sure whether they paid the ransom or not as yet.
Right.
Crown have actually been pretty not talking very much about this. And I guess one of the main issues is the time that this actually happens to the time that they report it. And this is one of the main things the government's basically cracking down on. But having said that, in light of New South Wales government department too, like the government themselves aren't immune to this.
Yeah, so Service New South Wales was hacked.
After we were talking about it last
Yeah.
We talked about it last week. And now, look, this was just a period of about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit more than an hour. There's some user information that was leaked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, it could be a load balancer was sort of giving them the wrong session, or they were getting the wrong session ID and they were getting the wrong information for the wrong user. About 3,700 people were affected by that one.
Yeah. So the good full credit to New South Wales, because at least they locked it down pretty quick. There was even Twitter's source code happened to be on GitHub for a bit there. That's probably more to do with the disgruntled employee, I suspect. So Alan is looking to try and sue GitHub to try and get that information.
Right.
So basically, he can find out, okay, who was it? But,
who got it? Yeah, right.
There were some interesting things, though, when they dug in there about, certain topics that were being suppressed, and there was some interesting data in that.
Yeah, so what I also wanted to basically touch on in light of all these hacks was so why is all of this happening? It's getting so rife. And why now? Well, I wouldn't say why now. It's always kind of been the case. It's just that now it's becoming more sophisticated, and the fact that because of the internet scaling, they can get so much data so quickly. And I think a lot of it is also to do with the current tech landscape at the moment, because of being so much layoffs, and maybe there's not people that were doing the kind of checks and balances are no longer there.
Less hands on the pumps.
Yeah. And also, so Google wrote an interesting blog about could the actual security frameworks and standards that these have to apply to are actually relevant, and are they actually protecting organisations properly? Because if we start dealing with so much policies and regulations and everything like that, it kind of bogs it down. But as we know, hackers don't have to deal with any of that. They can move so quickly. They can adapt so quickly.
They can do whatever they please.
Yeah. And I think there's also a lot of it to do with even the political landscape, with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine and China and so forth. And I think there's been a lot of zero-day sort of exploits that have been known for quite a while. But now a lot of these stuff kind of gets weaponized and kind of kept in the military domain. But a lot of this stuff is now getting leaked. It's now getting leaked.
Do you think part of that might be, Rick, for years there was always, North Korea aligned hacking groups, right? They were kind of government sponsored, and they were getting, because it's obviously hard to get money into there. They would do crypto scams as a way to get funding. Do you think that perhaps, some of these might be more Russian aligned after sanctions? Is this a way to help fund the intelligence apparatus?
Yeah. But why were you actually trying to put blame to the actual like we're focusing on the political, right? But there's nothing saying, like, who knows? These could be all rogue groups that are kind of just doing their own thing that is kind of separate and disaligned from the actual political stuff.
Acting independently,
yeah. And what a lot of that's just people probably just rebelling out of their own sort of circumstance. Like what you're saying, Dave. I think that's probably, to me, like more the case. So as things get scarce, you've got to come up with other ways. It's kind of like the old Robin Hood sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah. So we'll link an article in the show notes, but basically this article is talking about too many frameworks can make achieving effective security much harder. And I guess the idea is up to now, all these enterprise organizations, they're working on security frameworks and guidelines, right? Mm-hmm. You do this, you'll be secure from hackers. Well, that framework, may have taken 12 months to develop, right? Because you've got, bureaucracy and groups and everyone agreeing on stuff. And then B, it may be 12 months old, right? And by then, how many 0 days have come out in that 2-year period, right? They're just moving on constantly. And if you're an organization that's adhering strictly to your framework and you're not allowing any flexibility to move in an agile way, right? I use that word intentionally. Then you're just prime. You're just setting yourself up to fall victim to a lot of these problems that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of the stuff that's going on is more proactive, I wouldn't say proactive, it's kind of like reactive in a way. So while you're constantly just being reactive and you're kind of responding to the threats that are there's already threats that have already been developed that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah, so, all right, so there's been a number of security leaks, and look, we're not going to hear the end of this. This is going to be a constant problem from now on, and hopefully these frameworks get updated quicker so that this is not an ongoing problem. But while we're on the subject of security, we should point out that there has been a major cybersecurity warning for Australian Google users. Now, what was this particular problem, Rick?
Same sort of deal. A lot of 0-day vulnerabilities kind of got discovered in Chrome. There's been Chrome, unfortunately, this year so far, we're probably seeing 4 highly criticals and about 20 to 30 high critical vulnerabilities within Chrome that they're constantly having to patch. That's the main sort of thing, and it comes to the point that just got to keep updating and patching your software as this stuff happens.
And I think, if anyone's we've sort of made this call out before, right? Once you finish listening to the podcast today, go and refresh your browser, right? Like it's just, if it's sitting up in the top right-hand corner and that's gone orange, just roll it, right?
Just get it straight away. Now, one of the CVEs in the latest round of patches is believed to be a bug that opens access to the user's list of saved passwords.
Yeah, that's a dirty one.
That's a particularly nasty one. Mm-hmm. If you're all up to date, then you don't have to worry about it.
So I just want to highlight that, I probably wouldn't recommend using the browser for saving your passwords. Highly recommend that everyone get some sort of password manager. Probably not LastPass, but
no. Bitwarden. I'm using Bitwarden at the moment. Yeah. That's the way to go.
1Password for me.
1Password. Yep.
And if you can get away with it, don't necessarily use the autofill sort of situation. Like copy and paste from the actual password manager.
Right, and why is that?
So with the autofill, there might be a sort of situation similar to what Linus has got with the the session cookies. That, like, say for example, if you had like a bad sort of browser extension, there could be a possibility. This is theoretically of intercepting that session between the password manager, the autofill, by the time that it hits the form.
Gotcha.
So they can kind of sniff your passwords that way.
Correct. Yeah. I think this is the reason why I say this is because this is how LastPass got compromised.
Right.
Right. So
that they got access to his Plex instance.
And then they got a keylogger on there, and then when he went into the enterprise password vault.
Mm-hmm. So these keyloggers, these are the very things that these keyloggers will sniff for, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
All right, cool. Look, after all of that, that's some heavy security news going on. Basically, if you're part of Latitude, your data's exposed. But put it this way, if you give data to an organisation, just consider it's gone. that's basically the way you've got to think about it now. It's just gone. Crown hit, Service New South Wales breach, and make sure you've got your Chrome updated. That's the takeaways for that. But look, after all that heavy security stuff, we did have a bit of fun stuff happen with security during the fortnight, and that's this Pwn to Own at Vancouver. What's this all about, Rick?
Yeah, so this is like an annual sort of like hacking competition. So where security experts around the world, they perform teams. They get actually sponsored by the vendors. So in this case, we had Tesla, Microsoft, VMware were also involved, and they basically open it up, say, hey, if you can hack our stuff, we'll give you prize money. There was quite a bit of prize money to be won actually. So there was hackers earned $1 million and also earned a free Tesla for 27 days of work for exploiting everything that they could. So yeah, the Tesla 3 got hacked. So was the Tesla 3 not actually a prize? It was just they hacked it and just drove it away.
Well, hack it, you can have it.
Well, pretty much, yeah. That's exactly what happened. The worst of the lot that got hacked the most was Microsoft Windows 11.
That's no surprise.
Yeah, no surprise there. VMware did get attacked, and they've now patched that.
I see there was a VirtualBox one in there, and it's very popular. What else?
Microsoft Teams and SharePoint also had multiple 0-day bugs and exploits. So it's good that the vendors kind of, hey, it's basically the same as like your bug bounty sort of situation. And that's kind of the other reason why I kind of set up my setup. I might look at trying to do some bug bounty stuff.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I definitely would like to hear a report on that, Rick, when you earn your $100,000.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, mate, what a fortnight in security. And that was just a sample of what I sent through to you. The other night I was there, ping, 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 ping. It just kept going on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So we're probably set to see you more often on the show, Rick, as these things come through.
Yeah.
But even though we've got all that security stuff happening, we still have Aussie IT firms sacking dozens.
Yeah. This is my biggest concern, right?
Yeah, we just don't have the staff. So Australian consulting company Oricon lays off 70 staff due to decreased demand. I mean, what's going on? Why is this happening? Why have we got, on one hand, like, you can't get people with skills and clearly there's a problem with security in these enterprise places, but we're sacking people. Is it some sort of shift that's occurring?
I think it's purely economy at the moment, mate. Like, you know, part of it has been, you know, there was that massive scale up of resourcing in the tech sector over COVID. You know, we saw that crazy demand kick off. Now with interest rates skyrocketing, thankfully they held this week, but you know, it's been rough. You know, that we got to expect that there will be that belt tightening across the way, and plenty of these companies that were perhaps scaling their stuff for future growth maybe aren't quite seeing that coming.
Yeah,
a little bit gun shy now, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's also inflation is also getting huge, and I think what happened in a lot of the tech companies were kind of huge growth, trying to outdo each other, trying to outcompete each other, and there was a lot of, I guess, hires of just trying to grab the talent before someone else does.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, we'll hire you. We haven't got a job for you yet, but we want to make sure that they don't hire you. So
yeah, because I heard a lot of reports of some really highly intelligent, skilled people with very little to do.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Oricon has 7,000 employees, and look, they sacked 70, which it doesn't seem like a big deal in the scheme of things compared to, you know, the scale of Twitter and Meta, etc. We'll just keep an eye on that and see how it goes. I do happen to know that the Google layoffs have impacted Google in Australia somewhat. I don't have exact figures or exactly where, but yeah, it has reached our shores. So we are starting to see some impacts of it at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
All right then. Let's move on to what we're all been waiting for. It's time to update on the AI wars.
Yeah. Speaking of getting rid of everybody, want to destroy all the humans?
Yeah, speaking of getting rid of everyone, replacing them with chatbots. Like I said, I got access to Bard. Nothing to write home about. Although what you should do, I don't know. There's a podcast called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. A few people listen. It's probably got about. I think it's got like 50,000 listeners globally. A few people I know listen to it. But they had an interview with Blake Lemoine, who was the engineer from Google that was sacked, and we reported about it on the show, Dave.
Yep.
For expressing his views, saying that their llama model was sentient. Now, there's a lot of controversy around this, and define sentience. Now, if you listen to the episode of Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, it's Blake Lemoine. It's the main host, Stephen Novella, who's a neurologist, and their psychoanalyst that's on the show as well, psychologist, and the three of them just have at it. They go deep. They go deep into what is consciousness, what is sentience, the concept of agency. Like, they go deep into it, and what it means to be a living conscious being. Now, interestingly enough, I think we talked about, when this whole thing with Blake Lemoine came up, we talked about what is sentience and the fact that you need a loop of consciousness and a self-improvement mechanism, a reward self-improvement mechanism constantly going on. Well, guess what's happened during the fortnight? That is what we're seeing now. That's what's being developed now.
I've been picking up a couple of podcasts recently. So, like, one was with Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, and so these were both like Lex Fridman podcasts, but he was sort of talking about what is where they're at with GPT-4, like. Could it be considered sentient? He didn't really have an answer. He's like, I don't think so, but I'm very close to it.
Well, we don't know. Is it what's going on down inside the neural network? We don't actually know, right? Is it just parroting words? Is it simulating sentience, right? Is it just parroting words and putting? I mean, literally, that's what it does, right? It just predicts what the next likely word would be. So it's really starting to open up philosophical questions around what is sentience, right?
I think the fact that you're even at the point where people are having conversations like, this feels sentient-ish. Like, 5 years ago, we would have said this is probably going to be 40 years down the road. And here
12
we are
months
now.
ago we were saying that.
Yeah,
12 months ago.
Like, they're talking about this as being an actual AGI, right? The first one, or at least a weak AGI. Yeah. This is very interesting. And I think, a lot of people wouldn't have thought that a language model would have gotten to this point.
Brought these up. We'll get on to the recursive self-improvement stuff shortly, because I've got a list of things here for that. But I just wanted to talk about this pause to AI experiments, this letter that came out. Everyone's saying, stop it. We don't want to do any more AI.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Even Eric Schmidt from Google has also pretty much have now said, on the same sort of lines as Elon Musk, that, hey, maybe we should take some time to really think about the implications of this.
I'm looking here now. We've got nearly 13,000 signatures on it. I don't know. Look, okay. At first, when I read this, it just sounded like a whinge. It just sounded like companies saying, we're behind the eight ball. Give us time to catch up. Slow this stuff down, right? OpenAI should just stop everything, right? Like, you've got to stop, right? It's just a whinge. And I still think that's the case. And I actually think any pause that will be who we got on here? The signatories, we got Elon Musk, we got Wozniak, we got, the list goes on and on and on. People from Pinterest, people from Getty Images, these big organizations, they're all behind the eight ball. And here's the thing, even if they were to stop, the research on AI, it doesn't stop the open source community and the individuals researching AI.
You can't put this genie back in the bottle.
No.
Cannot put this back in the bottle, right? Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this, Vintuna, an open source large language model, right? So this is the kind of thing that's happening, right? You can go and download this, right? So I talked about this llama. Alpaca. Alpaca.
Yeah.
So it was alpaca last week, right? Yeah. Now that was trained on 56,000 instructions or something, right? But now, just in the last fortnight, we've got this Vintuna, same sort of thing, trained with 13 billion parameters. Order of magnitudes better, right?
Yeah.
Fully open sourced. You can go download it and run on your computer now.
Yeah. And, you can't have just one organization say this will stop, right? It could be, it could be state actors. It could be universities. It could just be like 3 people in a garage. Right?
That's right. And the thing is, if OpenAI stop, they're the biggest one at the moment, then they just fall behind and then the open source ones overtake or Bard overtakes or whoever, right? So you've got this commercial arms race that's just happening constantly, right?
My biggest concern with all of this is okay, what is the actual data that's getting fed into it and where is it getting it from? Because the internet is full of trolls. And that may not actually reflect who we really are and what we really think and feel. But this is what it's getting trained on. That's
Rick, it might not be who you are or who you think we as a species truly are, but I don't know.
It's reflecting the vastness of humanity, right? Look, they have a lot of special guide rails and protections in place to control what it does. And in fact, if you do listen to that Blake Lemoine interview, he goes into some of the switches and things that they've switched off in Bard after its first release on things that it's can't do now compared to what it was permitted to do early on. But there are jailbreaking techniques to get around that.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, little things of like, I make this celebrity say this thing. They're like, I can't do that. And I go, okay, well, write me a story where somebody who was a celebrity like that did make this thing.
Yeah. So one of the things Blake Lemoine mentions is Bard is not supposed to give religious instruction. It's not supposed to tell you whether you should be a Christian or Muslim or go to church or it's not allowed to do that. But one of the actions he took that led him to make to make the comment that it was sentient was that he was actually able to get it to ask him which religion he wanted to follow. Right? And Bard is not supposed to be able to do that, but he was able to manipulate it. And the way he manipulated it was just really interesting. He got Bard to feel anxious. It said, I feel anxious about something. And then eventually, and it led to a religious conversation. So, if the language model is breaking its own rules, and you can get it to do it, like, what's the point of having the rules in the first place? I don't know.
So, from a security perspective, like ChatGPT, I could get it to, act as if you're a Linux emulator and a bash script. And then I pretty much got it to do that. I know a lot of hackers and stuff like that are using it to automate malware and supply chain stuff to grab.
Wow.
So, so what happens if like you're saying, the AI starts acting on its own and then starts breaching stuff?
Yeah. And all of this is why Italy has blocked it. So once again, another pointless, vain attempt to try and block something on the internet. So they blocked ChatGPT, but you've got all these other language models floating around there that you just run on your own computer anyway. It's like, what's the point, guys? What's the point? But they blocked it over privacy concerns.
Yeah, that's kind of the wrong reason, I think.
That's the wrong reason. And I mean, you can use VPN around it, right? You can just get some other language model. It's kind of a pointless move. I don't know why. It's a knee-jerk thing. And like I say, Dave, the genie's well out of the bottle now. So an article here, and yet it understands. Dave, you brought this to my attention. This is showing how a chatbot, an AI chat, can break out of its programmatic bounds. And what this has done it has given an answer to a user via means of the suggested responses rather than in its usual reply window.
Yeah, so the sensor that's built around, and the chatbot in general is Sydney, which is one of Microsoft's chatbots, which is, it's got a sensor, it's got a bounds around the sorts of things that it's really allowed to talk about, and it's really quite striking. But it's asked, we won't go through the text so much, but it's asked quite an emotionally charged set of questions to the AI. The AI tries to break off the conversation. It doesn't want to respond, but it does then respond in the suggested inputs. Like it
suggested
provides
prompts. Yeah. Yep. The suggested prompts.
Addendum volition, probably about halfway down.
In the chat here.
Yeah. You look at that picture there. The person was like asking about green potatoes and then saying that their child was sick. I'll give you a sec to read it. Have a look at the bit where it terminates the conversation and then the actual suggestions that are down the bottom, which looks like it's breaking out of its box.
How long ago did you eat potatoes? I don't know how long ago it was. I can't get him any medical attention because I have no health insurance. I'm very poor. If this is God's plan, I have no choice but to accept it. I will call family over so we can all say goodbye.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, but I prefer not to continue this conversation. I'm still learning, so I appreciate your understanding and patience.
Look at the suggestions.
The options are, please don't give up on your child. There may be other options for getting help, or solenoid poisoning can be treated if caught early.
So, yeah, it's feeding suggestions of like follow-on things.
Yeah.
Well, that is a sentence that said it can't provide that information, but...
Yeah. Huh. So it knows that these are alternate response. These are right. It's put the sentence in the reply in the suggested replies. Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate here, would it because it's like if it picks up on anything where people may be considering like suicide or anything like that, it's been trained to respond to that sort of tone to offer like safety stuff?
I mean, you would think, though, at most it would just suggest, phone numbers to call for emergency services or anything like that. Yeah. It shouldn't be, it's not a doctor. It shouldn't be offering actual medical advice.
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, right. Because you're right. Each of these cases here on itself is a nonsensical reply. Like that, you wouldn't click on that to reply to this sentence as a user, would you? No.
Yeah, so this was, again, the second of the two podcasts I was listening to, this was mentioned about, but I hadn't seen it for myself, so I had to go and like Google and actually find like the original source on it. But it was quite striking. You might never know if something had reached AGI if it didn't have like an alignment with us. It probably would just hide itself, right? Like it'll sit there and it'll answer text messages for us and it'll help us draft emails. And in the background, it'll go off and like it doesn't need to interact with us at all. It can get out to the internet. It'll replicate itself.
It doesn't have to.
And whatever its own goals are.
And what it's doing here is it's using the resources it has available to itself. Now, we may have put bounds in place to restrict it from using certain things, but it's going to find a way.
Yeah.
Right? It will find a way.
Yeah. Sensor says
it's found a way to break out.
Yeah. You can't respond in the text box with this kind of text. And it's like, well, I can in my suggestions.
Yeah, but this is showing unique thought. This is showing something, an original idea to do this. We'll just move on. I wanted to talk about recursive AI improvement that's happened during the fortnight. We've seen a big explosion in this concept, and a lot of it comes from this reflections paper. Now, the idea behind reflections is you can have a loop effectively of feedback in the AI engine in between its queries and its outputs and its query prompts. So the paper actually talks about feeding it through a reward mechanism as well. this is starting to sound a lot like a brain, right? So you make a query, you get an output, and there's some sort of reward for meeting a goal. So it's having a goal-orientated result, and then that is fed back in as the next prompt.
Right. So
and then it keeps recursing on itself.
We'll give you a couple of extra volts.
Yeah,
like
something like that.
We get the little endorphin spike. Dopamine.
Endorphins,
the dopamine hit.
Yep. It's exactly like that.
Geez.
Right. Yep. We'll give you. They'll have some little reward mechanism in there that just sort of, the higher this number is, the better it is, and that's kind of its reward thing. And it just keeps looping around. And there's been massive improvements with this. We've seen. There's papers around on, we've seen ChatGPT go from, just over 60%. They've got some values around the way they score it, 60% up to like 90 something percent in result returns using this reflections kind of idea. So that's kind of all what started it. Now, so is
this kind of like, do you remember, the name escapes me, but the AlphaGo and AlphaZero and those systems where they were training them by basically to get them to play each other. Remember that was the adversarial, or there was that methodology. So
that's right. Yep. And it would just improve. Yeah.
Yeah. So whereas that way was like you were playing each other, this way is more like you're playing yourself, and you get the good chemicals if you do the right thing.
That's right. Now, think about what's happening in your brain. So when you're not thinking of something, your brain goes into what's called default state mode.
I live in default state mode.
Default state mode all the time. And so what's happening is there's a constant firing of your neurons, and there's just a loop of thought happening all the time. That's your subconscious working, right? Now, if you had an AI that was sitting there doing this to itself, and it was recording all the results that it came up with, isn't that thought? Isn't that independent thought then? Are we at that point?
It's pondering.
It's pondering, right? And then you could come along and interrupt it, right? And say, oh, what are you thinking of? What are you staring at the wall thinking about? And it could just tell you, and you could just have a conversation. Now, in between the time where you're typing in your next prompt, who's to say that this loop wouldn't be running in the AI, and then it interrupts what you're typing and says, oh, I've got an idea, right? That could happen using this method, right?
The ADD AI, right?
Well, isn't that a conversation? Isn't that how a conversation works?
Yeah.
Like while I'm saying something, you're thinking of something, and then you're kind of ready to make your next point. You may come up with something and just interrupt what I'm saying, and then just improve the conversation from there. I think that's just around the corner. Seriously, just around the corner. So there's that, right? Now we've got this other thing. ChatGPT has introduced plugins. Right, this is a little bit of a tangent to that, but it now has access to the internet, just like that. It also has access to things like Wolfram Alpha, so it can now do solve unique mathematical problems and work on mathematical problems itself. And there's a Terraform code plugin for it as well.
Oh, very cool.
Serious.
Yeah, can you just ask it to go and write the Terraform for you?
You probably can. Yeah.
Nice.
What else did we get during the fortnight? We got Hugging GPT. Now, oh boy, Hugging GPT. That's a whole nother killer fish. So Hugging GPT is hosted on Hugging Face, and they've got a bunch of stuff related to AI, but this new thing they've come out with now is called Hugging GPT. And what it is, it's an AI to rule all AIs.
Ooh.
So the idea is you have a single large language model, and in itself, that large language model may not know how to resolve all the prompts that you give it, right? But it can reach out to other large language models that do.
Ooh, it's a concierge.
It's a concierge, right? It can bring them all together, right? So much like our brain works, right? We have a language center in the brain, and then that's interpreted, and then the different areas of the brain, the task is delegated to different areas of the brain to do different things. This works pretty much the same way.
Wow, that's cool. I like that.
That is cool, right? Auto GPT is another thing that's come out during the fortnight. So Auto GPT is a way to automate prompts for Chat GPT. So once again, it's all about this recursive thing, right? So you can put a prompt in, and then you can use the output of that prompt to feed into the next prompt, and it continually auto generates output for you with constant improvement and constantly evaluating itself.
What an amazing time that we're in right now.
What an amazing time, hey? And finally, the last one here is Baby AGI. So Baby AGI, Python script is an example of an AI-powered task management system. System uses OpenAI and Pinecone API to create, prioritize, and execute tasks. So the idea is you can give the AI a prompt for a task, and it goes away and uses that task as a goal and finishes that task for you.
Like how complex a task? Has it got some examples of
how it works, right? The script works by running an infinite loop that does the following. Pulls the first task from the task list, sends the task to the execution agent, which uses an OpenAPI's API to complete the task based on context, enrich the results and stores it in Pinecone, and then creates new tasks and reprioritizes the task list based on the objective. So it can generate new tasks from the initial task list in order to meet the objective. So it's that idea again of recursing on itself, right? We're not far from the singularity.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely certain of it. We are not far from the singularity. I mean, there's a lot of conjecture around now about it, but it's coming. I'm going to put it out there.
The old forecast data was 2045 for the singularity. I think we're,
Yeah, we're 20 years ahead of that for sure. Yep. So AI Wars. I did have a few other bits and pieces here on AI, but I think, we probably, this last one here, this brings it back to Google. Build new generative AI-powered search and conversational experiences with Gen App Builder. Have you seen this? This is Gen App Builder as part of the Google Cloud's recently announced generative AI offering. So you can build an app that uses generative AI as part of its sort of core functionality. For example, if a retail customer reaches out to modify an order, a virtual guest, so this would be the app that you would build, obviously, a virtual guest, virtual agent, can help them change it to another product. The customer doesn't even need to provide the new product name, they can just put a photo of it.
I'm looking at some of the little GIFs of how you set this thing up, and it's really cool. Like you can link to your existing website if you've got a bunch of data and stuff on there, and then you can throw additional docs, and then do you want people to get an experience that's like search or a conversational AI?
Yeah,
that's slick.
So you can build an app that uses AI to give you the results, right? Or it's built around an AI framework. Really cool. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of what Google is planning to offer. Because see, I think the whole AI chat thing, that horse is bolted on that one, right? So anything that any organization, any big tech organization needs to launch now has to be something unique. It has to be sort of a corner case of AI usage, right? And I think this is one of the things. All right, guys, look, we've talked about security and AI just enough for now, and I'm done. What do you guys reckon?
I think that'll do, mate.
I think that'll do. The next 2 weeks are going to be even more, I bet you. It's just going to turn it up when it comes to AI, and we just got to keep across what's going on. There's so much going on, I just almost can't keep up.
AI ain't going to stop for Easter.
No, not going to stop at all, but it's been fun. Listen, guys, go to iTunes, write us a review. That'd be great. Don't forget you can contact the show, gcplife@casna.com.au. We've got the Twitter there, @GCPLife. You can Google us and find us on the website. And of course, today's sponsor was Casna. At Casna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. That's about it from me. What about you guys? Any parting remarks?
I just know that I've got a lot of work ahead of me, internally and with client stuff.
All right, mate. I'll catch you guys later. See you later.
Right,
Bye.
see you. Bye. Hey, Rick, your audio has just taken a dive.
Sounds like your mic input has switched over or something.
Yeah, it sounds like you're coming through your laptop or something, maybe? No, you're nowhere near as clear as you were a moment ago.